Actually, Miss Sprinkle.
To be heard is something that toddlers learn early and execute often. But as we age, that skill doesn't always seem to grow with us. Mastering the craft of speaking a message that your audience receives is a key form of communication that is essential in giving that message purpose. I'm Chad Hembry from the Learning Group, and right now on For Your Information, I am going to give you 3 key takeaways that you can captivate your audience with at your next sales pitch, PowerPoint presentation, or team meeting. Cue that open, Carl. Speak and be heard. For the record, there is no Carl, but maybe there was one within the 2006 group of Princeton psychologists that ran a series of experiments who came to the conclusion that it takes 1/10 of a second for a person to form an impression of a stranger. While that knowledge may have heightened your anxiety leading up to your next quarterly presentation, allow me to extinguish that angst by telling you that tip number 1 for your information is to open strong. Remember that you're competing with the audience's thoughts, stresses, cell phones, and you probably don't even want to know what else. Don't come out talking about yourself with your title or accolades and whatever. The audience likely already knows or knows enough about you. Instead, begin with an icebreaker that is relevant to the topic.
Why are you going to the airport? Flying somewhere?
For example, this amazing video, the one you're watching right now, began with an icebreaker of screaming toddlers. That was likely so jarring that you thought you saw the wrong video for a moment, but soon after, it was explained that it's tied to the message and hopefully created a hook or an interest.
Very well. Where do I begin?
After you have the audience's attention with the icebreaker, explain what's in it for them. As far as this presentation, if you remember about 35 seconds ago, you were told that you would receive 3 key takeaways that will captivate your audience. And look at that, you're still here.
Well, Lottie frickin' da!
Point number 2 for your information is intentional eye contact. When you make eye contact, you make a connection with your audience. This allows the audience to read your facial expressions and focus on what you're trying to communicate. In order to not make your audience uncomfortable and appear like a creep making too much eye contact, a good rule of thumb is to aim for 50 to 70% eye contact during the presentation. Now, when you're not making eye contact, where your eyes wander are just as important. If you look down, even to read notes, you show a lack of confidence. If you look up, it suggests that you're trying to remember or simply making something up, and the audience may question your credibility. To avoid either of those scenarios, find a blank space, straight ahead, such as an aisle, or a picture frame if you need a moment to pause. This is what we call in the industry a trick. Just kidding, it's not an industry term. Point number 3 for your information is to present with energy. You might think to yourself, yeah, cool point, Chad. I'll just drink a Red Bull or keep the coffee flowing. Well, that certainly could help. I've got a few other options for you. Now, in order to present with energy, you need to be intentional about 2 key deliveries. First, you need to believe in what you're speaking, because if you don't, neither will your audience.
If you can dream it, you can do it.
Imagine if there's no audio and someone saw you presenting through a glass window. All they can read is your body language. Would they be interested in what you have to say? Your nonverbals drive home the message you're trying to deliver. Now, the second suggestion is that you need to make it personable. Ask yourself, how can your personality come through in this presentation? It will make the preparation more enjoyable and the audience will become more engaged. Remember, just because this is work doesn't mean it needs to be stiff and rigid. Have fun with your message.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Don't just rattle off facts from a spreadsheet in Q1. Otherwise, you'll sound like a monotone Mary or boring Barry.
Yo, man, let's get out of here. Word to your mother.
I close with this. Speaking with the purpose of being heard, and not just speaking to check something off of your to-do list, is a practice that must be exercised from the very beginning of preparation, up until the closing remarks of the presentation. Within that vacuum, it sounds exhausting. But in short, it's simply about humanizing your message to increase engagement and improve audience retention. Or you can always revert to screaming toddlers. The choice is yours. For the Learning Group, I'm Chad Embry, and this was For Your Information.
Konica Minolta.